Seeing how now the internet seems to be about as friendly as 1940s Europe, it's really nice to see some acts of camaraderie and unity. The whole GameStop short squeeze a while back has been a great example of that, and now we have another good one, and that is the Louis Rossmann Right to Repair battle. Is it Louis or Louis? I never know. Anyway, if you haven't seen, he recently launched a Gofundme for $6 million for a brand new right to repair initiative in the States. And many people have been confused by this. Number one, what on earth does he need $6 million for? And number two, what can he even do about right to repair legislation? I mean, he's just an average dude, not a politician or anything. And the answer to all of that is, American politics are extremely confusing. And because of how complicated it is, even though the US is pretty much the center of the world by now, and seeing how most tech giants mainly focus on American market share, right to repair has been on a very slow boil over there. Okay, well, for the longest time, in the electronic space at least, right to repair has been on a slow boil pretty much everywhere. Because right to repair mainly comes down to two parts: allowing third-party repair shops to source OEM parts needed to carry out the repairs, and number two, the device being made in such a way that these repairs can actually happen. Because many companies, in order to drive up sales, have been doing stuff like gluing in non-replaceable batteries, or instead of having a socketed CPU, like in modern computers, they simply have it soldered into the motherboard, meaning that it's not removable at all. So if the CPU dies, you have to replace the whole motherboard, or vice versa. And of course, if there's one company that everyone on the internet criticized more over this than any other, it's everyone's favorite trillion-dollar company that makes basic white Go phones, Apple, which makes it an even worse look for them when they then go out and say that they're a super ecological company, that they're doing a lot to save the planet while they're producing literal e-waste. So naturally, it's a big issue. Companies create devices you can't repair and either introduce planned obsolescence so that you can buy more devices, meaning that consumers then have to spend more money on basic stuff, and all those useless devices then end up in landfills, because recycling of electronics is still not that efficient or clean or easy or cheap, or just pretty much, we still have a long way to go in that department. So if it's such a big issue, then why has nobody done anything about it? Well, maybe in the States there hasn't been much done, but over here in Europe there has been at least some progress. Because here's a fun fact to all my viewers that aren't from the old world. Here in Europe we have something called the European Union. It's a very neat thing, and it basically brings a whole bunch of nations together, and then legislation that's, for the most part, decent can be applied to all of them at once, thus making more efficient policies that impact all of Europe, or at least most of it. And the European Union has been doing a lot when it comes to introducing a right to repair legislation across all its member states. They've been doing a lot to tackle issues in the technological world. I mean, they've even suggested making one universal charger for phones. So all of that means that the old continent is definitely way ahead of the States. And because I don't come from the States, instead coming from the huge and vast fields of free labor that exist beyond American borders, I don't fully understand how it all works, but from what I can gather, you basically have states that can kind of pass their own legislation, and the federal government, so like, you know, Washington DC and all, don't really do much in terms of laws that apply evenly to all states because reasons. So that makes passing any laws that are supposed to impact all 300 million plus people who live in the United States very, very difficult indeed. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been attempts. States like Nevada have been recently trying to introduce new right to repair legislation. Though again, that's just one state. And you can imagine that in some states like, say, California, home to Silicon Valley, it's going to be extremely hard to introduce this kind of law, because naturally you're going to have all the big tech companies trying to lobby it. That doesn't mean that other parts of the country aren't trying to introduce this kind of legislation. Many are. It's just that Given the circumstances, there are much bigger priorities right now, but the movement around the issue has become so big nowadays that it's simply impossible for politicians to even ignore it anymore. So where on earth does Rossman come in with his massive $6 million GoFundMe? Well, another weird thing that's actually kind of cool that the American system has is what's called a direct ballot initiative. And basically it's a process that allows normal people, not just public servants, to create referendums, and the result of said referendum could then be passed into law. And that is what Rossman is trying to do here with that $6 million budget. Create this ballot initiative, then hopefully have people vote for right to repair, and thus set a standard. So because of how complicated the American system is, even if the referendum is hopefully successful and people do vote for right to repair, it's not guaranteed it will still become proper law, or ideally federal law that will be applied to all 50 states, plus territories and Washington DC, and man, you have a weird country, you guys. So I'm gonna leave a link to the GoFundMe in the video description. Go check it out, it's really going to be beneficial for all of us, even if you do not live in the States like me, because it will still be a huge step forward for right to repair. That will set a standard that hopefully more states and more countries will follow. And hey, why not? I'm going to throw in all my earnings, some AdSense this month, into the GoFundMe as well. Why on earth did I say that? I'm going to bankrupt myself, aren't I? Anyway, if you want to help me recover my losses that I just promised you, because I'm such a generous person, and because you're such a generous person, you of course want to support me on Patreon, right? Even $1 a month goes a long way in helping my channel and allows me to make way better videos, and also videos on way more interesting topics. I'd also love to thank my patrons Gavin Burns, Ryan, LKB, Naomi Sushi, Tiffany Jacobs, and Meg Sumner. Thank you guys so much, your support truly goes a long way. So yeah, if you guys want to help the channel out that way, go and check it out, it truly goes a long way. Alternatively, if you're planning to buy literally anything from Amazon, check out our Amazon associated links down below. You don't have to buy the item link, just literally anything from Amazon you buy. From those links, we get sent money, you don't pay anything extra, so it's a win-win. Down there's also our old customs link if you want a cool and customizable compact keyboard, plus a Discord server if you want to talk to me or us at this or whatever else really, plus we're hosting an art contest so you can find your artwork on official avrona merch, and you get a free t-shirt with your artwork, so definitely check out the Discord server for details on that. Plus, our social media links are down there as well. Tons of good stuff, go check out the video description. Do it right now. But anyway, that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone, goodbye.